Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday once again. Here we are. Oh my gosh, it's almost June. So I don't know about you, but this year is just kind of flying by in a big blur of what in the world has just happened. so I am actually in the process of working on my next series. So yes, I'm still working on the one that I'm working on, writing it, but I'm actually planning out, mapping out next year's books. As part of a rapid release strategy, you always have to be a little bit ahead of yourself and thinking down the line, like what's going to happen next, right? And one of the things that I've been working on and trying to decide about is word counts. So I have this series, it's begun already. It's the Diana Hawthorne mystery series, and her initial book is like 70,000 words. And I was like, do I want to write that many words for all of these books that are going to be coming after that? And it got me thinking about word count goals, word count targets, daily word counts, what I can accomplish in a certain period of time, all of those things, which then made me wonder about you guys. Like, how do you feel about word counts and word count targets and word count goals? Do you know what you're aiming for? Do you know what categories you're going to fall into if you write a certain number of words? So that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about both in the podcast, which is available today, and also our talk today, because I get asked that question a lot. Like, how do you know how many words should be in your novel? Well, and that question is really kind of loaded because it all depends on the age bracket that you're writing for and then the genre you're writing for, because not all genres are the same, right? So if you're writing a middle grade book, for example, the fiction novel target that you're going to be given for most other books probably isn't going to fit you very well, because that's not necessarily true in the case of middle grade books. So like a normal fiction novel is anything that is 40,000 words or more, and then you're considered a novel. Anything that's going to be in the 17,500 to the 40,000, that's going to be a novella. Anything from the 7,000, 7.5, I guess, maybe, to the 17,000, that's going to be a novelette. And anything beyond, the downward, the 7,500 is going to be considered a short story. But in a middle grade book, the average book length for that kind of category is much smaller. So a novel in that sense is going to be roughly on average about 30,000 words for that book at most. So most of them are going to be ranging anywhere from 12,000 words, so almost novelette / short story-esque, all the way up to the 30,000 and upward. You can have middle grade books that are much larger when you think about things like Harry Potter, because technically Harry Potter originally started as a middle grade series. So those books are almost 80,000 words, if I'm remembering right. The first one. It gets much bigger after that. Now, when it comes to your books and rapid releasing, you have to think about what can you logistically handle in a day, which is where the word count goals come into play, right? So can you write 2,000 words every single day? Can you write 2,000 words 5 days a week? What is it that you can actually handle, and how often do you want to be publishing? This is how all of those words kind of come into the play of figuring out your author career and figuring out how rapid release would fit into your world. So for me, I'm planning on doing 60,000 words, between 55 and 60,000 words, depending on how the books end up once I start writing. But if I aim for 60,000 and I fall a little bit short, it's not a big deal, because then I'm still kind of in that bracket, in that window that I'm looking for. And if I do that, and if I'm writing 6 week sprints is what I'm going to call it, I guess, then I can get that done with under the 2,000 words a day, even though I'm probably going to aim for that myself. If any of you have done NaNoWriMo, you know that you can write 50,000 words in a single month, so 30 days, by writing only 1,667 words. And I say only because for me, I write for a living. But if you're new to writing, or if you're trying to get up and running, it might seem like a lot. You'll get there though. When I first started writing, I kind of fluctuated between writing 300 words a day to writing 5,000 words a day, and then trying to find my average, trying to figure out where it felt most comfortable to me, so I didn't feel like I was consuming my whole entire day or struggling to try to reach a certain number either. And for you, it might be something a little bit different. If you're brand new to rapid releasing, consider this. If you write 500 words every day, just 500, right? you could have 20,000 words written by the end of the month. And if you still want to get that 60,000 word novel done, you could have a novel written in 3 months. So there's things to think about and things to be able to play around with to try to figure out how you can gear yourself up to be able to do these things and be able to implement word count goals and word count targets for yourself. Now, in the podcast today, I do talk a lot about what genres have different word count goals and what things like that. For instance, I'll just give you a quick example. Fantasy and sci-fi. For the majority of adult fantasy and sci-fi, you're going to be averaging between 90,000 words and 125,000 words. My young adult version, which was a young adult sci-fi fantasy, is a little bit different because it's in the young adult category. And YA stuff is a little different, where their stuff is ranging anywhere from 55,000 words to 80,000 words. So when you're crossing your genres and you're crossing your ages, you have to consider all of those things. But there's a lot of play. I mean, books all over the place are going longer or going shorter. It really depends on whether or not you as the author feel like you have accomplished the goal of your story. And I think most of us will know, like when you're writing, you know if you've finished your story, you know if you're missing something or if you have to go back and embellish it a little bit. But sometimes you really don't need a lot more. Sometimes a short story will do it. Sometimes a novella will do it. I know a lot of authors who are actually planning on their rapid releasing, and they're using novellas rather than novels as their way to rapid release, because now you're getting those stories out there every single month, and you're able to up your portfolio and your backlist, and people are able to get to know you and your writing style and all of those things. And if you're able to write 40,000 words a lot faster than obviously 60,000 words, 70,000 words, well, then why wouldn't you take that opportunity? So your author career is completely open to whatever it is that you're looking to attain. Don't feel like you have to write this epic fantasy that's going to be 150,000 words and then feel like you can't rapid release, because let's just face it, nobody's going to be writing and rapid releasing an epic fantasy series. And if you are, you're incredible, because you're probably writing like 15,000 words a day. It's crazy. But think about your career, right? Think about what it is you want out of your writing and how quickly you want to write it. And one of the best ways to give yourself structure is to come down to something that's very concrete, right? It's that whole SMART goal thing where you're trying to create those actionable items, those actionable tasks that you can do that are measurable, right? And so if you can give yourself a number, start with your word count goal for your book, 60,000 words, for example, and you say, okay, I want to have it done in 6 weeks, then figure out how many days that is. If you want to take any days off, you subtract those days from that number, and you divide 60,000 words by your number. So for me, it was 60,000 words divided by 36, because I wanted to take off the 6 Mondays, because Mondays are a crazy day for me. I work a lot on client work. And that actually equaled out to be the exact same number, go figure, as NaNoWriMo, which was 1,667. So as long as I'm writing 1,667 words a day on those days, I'm good. And if I write those full chapters, which for me are roughly about 2,000 words, I'm actually ahead of the game. Now, think about your chapters as well. This is something that I get asked a lot, and it's something that actually I've been toying with and working with. Originally, I always aimed for the 3,000 word mark, because for me, it just felt good. But now that I've gotten a little bit more advanced with the way that I write and the way that I'm trying to get books written in a day, well, not books written in a day, but chapters written in a day, I like the 2,000 word mark. That feels comfortable to me. I can actually write 2,000 words, write the entire scene, the entire chapter, and be done with it, and then move on to the next chapter tomorrow. And usually what I will do, for those of you who are like, okay, well, if I finish a chapter, it's hard for me to pick it back up. Think about writing down a quick outline of what you expect the next chapter to look like. So as you're coming in tomorrow, or whatever day it is that you next come in, you've already got your kind of basic plot points and your structures and your hooks put in there, and you know exactly where you're going to be going and what you want to be doing. That'll just help you kind of kickstart everything and keep going the next time, especially if there's days in between where you haven't been writing. So for me, if I take Mondays off, Tuesdays can be a complete blur if I don't have something already laid out for myself. That's where other things like outlines and chapter outlines will help you. They're not always the be all end all because sometimes you have to switch things up. Maybe your writing ended up taking you to a different place than you originally mapped out, and that's okay. That's what writing is for, and that's what planning is for, but it doesn't have to dictate everything that you do. You're the artist of your story. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys get a little bit of an idea of how you can use your word count goals and your word count targets towards rapid releasing or just getting your stories out in general. And if you have questions about like what is your genre target, definitely check out the podcast today. It's going to be up at authorrevolution.org/31, or you can find it on, all the different podcast sites, Apple, Spotify, whatever. But have a listen. I do go over some of the main categories and you're able to figure out, thrillers and romance novels, all the things. We talk about all the things. But honestly, those goals and those targets will keep you on track and help you not only with like writing your books and getting them out there, but planning for your editorial calendar, knowing what it is that you want to be doing next. All of those things put that structure in place and help you to become a bigger, badder version of yourself and able to get all of your work out into the world rather than just kind of dreaming about it and wishing that one day it was done. Sometimes this just takes work, guys, and it takes a little bit of forethought and thinking about, okay, what are my goals? What is it that I want to accomplish with writing, with my author career and my stories? And it all kind of filters its way all the way down until you have those granular level goals that you can keep track of and follow. And if you're using Scrivener, one last thing, I have to tell you, this makes life a lot easier. You don't even have to do any of the math. You just plug in your book's goal or your short stories goal, your novella's goal, 40,000 words, 60,000 words, whatever it is. You give it your deadline, whatever day you plan on being done with writing that book. And the days, it has like a little taskbar that lets you know what days of the week you're going to be writing and which ones you don't want to be counting. And it will automatically give you your daily word count goal. So you know exactly what you have to hit for that day. And if you miss a day, or if you don't quite get to your goal, or if you go over your goal, it automatically adjusts so that you know exactly what it is that you have to be focusing on. And it's so helpful. It's something that when I first started writing, it was all done. I didn't do it originally in Word because Word drove me bonkers. It always has. I used a different program called StoryMill, I believe it was. And then I tried out Scrivener and it's been love ever since. So StoryMill is very similar. It just didn't have some of the bells and whistles that I guess I was looking for. And Scrivener has just stuck with me ever since. And I use the app and I use the iOS app and I use the desktop version as well. So it's just fantastic. And for those of you who don't know, it does so many things, whether it's short stories or novels or even screenplays. You can do a lot in Scrivener. All right, guys, that's my spiel for today because I do love that program. And it does keep track of those word count goals. It's so important, in my personal opinion, to keep track of it. Even when I was a pantser, I kept track of my word count goals. And it kept me on track and kept me writing Panamas right from the very beginning. I was able to hit that 50,000 word mark in the month because I was keeping track every single day of what my word count was and how I was rising and how I was trying to reach that 50,000 word goal. And even though I didn't have a structure for my story, and I knew that when I hit 50,000 words, it wasn't the end of the story, I just kept going. And I kept using that 1,667 words as my roadmap, I guess, to continue writing until I finished whatever the story was meant to look like. So helpful, hopefully. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below this video and let me know what you're thinking about when it comes to word count goals. And if you have anything that you have questions on, whether it be how to implement the word count goals for you, or let me know what your word count goals usually are. Like if you have some and you put them in play, what are they? I'd love to know. All right, guys, I'm going to get moving. I'm going to go do some more writing of my own. It is Wednesday, which means I have to get my own writer on and try to get Haunted Legacy out. So that's what I'm going to be doing this morning. Hopefully you have a good day writing as well, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.